Taoiseach, care in this country is met with rhetoric rather than resources. At the start of this year, we had the care referendum, where the government promised a new era. But yet, when we look at the delivery of care, and I mentioned children's state care earlier on, nursing home care and childcare, we see resources not nearly enough to deliver what should be a decent level of care in these sectors. So the provision of, obviously, childcare is a public good, but it's more than that. It's actually a necessity for many families, because many families simply cannot get off the economic treadmill that necessitates them paying their mortgages, etc., because if they do, the whole world comes tumbling down in relation to them. Now, in terms of childcare, there is a parallel universe on this issue. For sure, the government will talk about increased investment in childcare. For sure, they'll talk about the fact that they have reduced fees in this sector. But the truth is that when you talk to providers and even parents in this sector, they'll tell you that it's actually far harder for providers to exist, and it's far harder for parents to get access to childcare. So the reason being is because many of these providers have had their incomes and their fees frozen, and yet they have a situation whereby they have increased input costs, which is making it less viable for them to function. So in Dublin, just in the second quarter of this year, 31 childcare services closed down in Dublin. And that's mirrored throughout the country. And it's a trend that's happening now for years. And yet, every time I raise this with Minister Roger O'Gorman, it is very, very frustrating, because it's a straitjacket instinct that the government is providing money, there's more money going in, it's less costly on parents, and that's where the issue stops. But it shouldn't stop. You mentioned that you want to be a Taoiseach for small businesses. You should realise that small businesses are being hammered with increased input costs. But only childcare seems to have the fees frozen as well, and that's a double whammy for them. So I'm asking the Taoiseach to take this issue seriously, and to make sure that we have a system whereby the providers of childcare, the workers within childcare, are properly compensated for the service that they deliver, so that there are more services and the families can actually access those services.
I mean, on the issue of childcare, firstly, I think you're right, and just give me 10 seconds. It's not just the issue of fees. I do accept that. It also has to be the issue of access and the model that we want to build. Now, look, I would point out that while, yes, some preschool services have closed, that's true, some preschool services have opened, and the numbers available to me show that there's been an overall increase of 161 in the number of services in the sector this year. We've also made some changes in relation to that issue of the freeze, trying to respond to some of the issues that were raised by the sector, and maybe I can send you a note on that.